Trump loses his cool. It started with more than a dozen tweets, including this, a clear loss of temper, accusing Democrats of all caps bull expletive. He, of course, as you can see, used the actual word. And then Trump went on camera, lashing out with a crude reference in front of a world leader and all Americans.
Adam Schiff, he's a lowlife. He should be forced to resign. There's an expression, he couldn't carry his blank strap. I won't say it because they'll say it was so terrible to say. But that guy couldn't carry his blank strap. Do you understand that?
Yeah, we understand that. He was talking about Adam Schiff, comparing him to Mike Pompeo. And as Trump continued to face questions, he lost control of his temper.
He should resign from office in disgrace. The whistleblower was so dishonest. These are bad people. These are dishonest people. And when the American people find out what happened, it's going to be a great day. They've been trying to impeach me from the day I got elected. You people should be ashamed of yourself. What happened in 2016 is a disgrace to this country. And they're more worried about that because they know they're guilty as hell. And let me tell you something. Biden's son is corrupt, and Biden is corrupt.
Okay, and then he went on to say this.
I watch my words very carefully. There are those that think I'm a very stable genius, okay? I watch my words very, very closely.
Well, if he was watching his words very, very closely, he would not have said this again and again and again today to describe the call where he asked a foreign leader to investigate Joe Biden.
The conversation was perfect. A perfect conversation. It was a very nice conversation. You have a perfect, I mean perfect conversation. That was a perfect conversation. That was a perfect conversation. It was perfect. The call was perfect. It was perfect. It was perfect. A beautiful conversation.
Well, of course, it was not perfect. In the transcript, which Trump today bragged was word for word, which of course it was not, Ukraine's president said, "We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next steps. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes." The president replied, quote, "I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it." Not perfect. Wrong. Here's Republicans Mike Turner and Mitt Romney talking about that very same call.
This remains deeply troubling.
I want to say to the president, this is not okay. It isn't, that conversation is not okay.
And today, when confronted with what he said and exactly what he wanted Ukraine's president to do about the Bidens, Trump, the person who has no problem answering any question, did this.
The question, sir, was what did you want President Zelensky to do about Vice President Biden and his son, Hunter?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, it was just a follow-up of what I just asked you, sir.
Listen, you ready? We have the president of Finland. Ask him a question.
I have one for him. I just wanted to follow up on the one that I asked you, which was,
Did you hear
what
me?
did you want
Did you hear me?
Yes,
Ask
sir.
him a question.
I will, but
I've given you a long answer. Ask this gentleman a question. Don't be rude.
No, sir, I don't want to be rude. I just wanted you to have a chance to answer the question that I asked you.
I've answered everything. It's a whole hoax. And you know who's playing into the hoax? People like you and the fake news media that we have in this country. And I say in many cases, the corrupt media, because you're corrupt. Much of the media in this country is not just fake, it's corrupt. And you have some very fine people, too. Great journalists, great reporters. But to a large extent, it's corrupt and it's fake. Ask the president of Finland a question, please.
Okay, I'll move on now. Mr. President, the WTO ruled today in favor of the United States, saying that the United States can now impose tariffs on European goods because of illegal subsidies against Airbus.
That was a big win for the United States, right?
It was.
You never had wins with other presidents, did you? But we're having a lot of wins at the WTO.
This was a case that started, I think, 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay.
But
excuse me. Your wins are now because they think I don't like the WTO and they want to make sure I'm happy. Because all of those countries were ripping off the United States for many years. They know that I'm wise to it. We've had a lot of wins. This was a $7 billion win. Not bad.
But I think the question is for me.
The question
Okay, out front now, I want to go to the reporter who was asking the president those questions, Jeff Mason, White House correspondent for Reuters. And Jeff, I wanted everyone to see exactly what happened there. Let's just be clear with one thing, first and foremost. The president of the United States did not answer your question, which you asked loudly and clearly and repeatedly. What did you want Vice President Zelensky to do about Vice President Biden and his son Hunter? He didn't answer.
No, he didn't answer, and he was certainly given opportunities to do so. And Aaron, it's a legitimate question. He's been saying, as you've been talking about already in your program, that his call with President Zelensky was quote unquote perfect, praising himself for having released that transcript. And so I thought it was good just to get a sense right now here, after that call has happened and after all the controversy has occurred, to get a sense from him as to what he really wanted, and he wanted to avoid the question.
He certainly did. So then he refuses to answer your question, demands that you ask one to the president of Finland, which you did, and then he jumps in anyway and doesn't let him answer it, which sort of was the priceless part about the whole thing. But my question to you, Jeff, is does anger and frustration today that you saw in that room, did it seem strategic to you, or did it seem like his anger really got the better of him?
I'm not convinced it was strategic, no, Aaron. I think that he's just upset and frustrated by how the impeachment inquiry is now going. He lashes out at journalists. He lashes out at the media in particular when he feels under pressure, when he feels frustrated. I think that's what he did today. I don't think that was strategic in that he would have had to think ahead of what the question might be or of what our exchange would be like. And I think instead it was just a show of exasperation on his part, both in the Oval Office, which you showed earlier, and in that press conference about this entire thing. I mean, he walked off the stage when there was supposed to be another question from the Finnish side. So that was a sign that he was just done.
He was just done, and he'd had it. But again, I want to make the point here that you asked a very simple question, and he could have answered it. He loves to answer questions, but he did not. I mean, he just point blank did not.
Yes, and it gets to the heart of this entire controversy. I mean, if he wants to say that he was not looking for the president of Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden, despite what it says in that transcript, then he needs to say that, or he needs to explain it, and he hasn't done that.
All right, Jeff Mason, thank you very much, doing his job and asking the questions as he should be doing on behalf of the American people. Out front now, our senior political reporter, Nia Malika Henderson, political analyst David Gregory, Ren Donut, who represented President Clinton during his impeachment hearings, and the former Nixon White House counsel, John Dean. So, Nia, you know, it's interesting when you see that exchange, right? It was a simple question.
Yeah.
If the president wanted to take issue with what was in the transcript or say, you know, it was inaccurate or it was misleading, he could have. He didn't. Because it's all there. He didn't want to talk about it.
He didn't want to talk about it. And I think you see echoes of that in other Republicans, right? They don't want to talk about the substance of this call, primarily the part about Biden, right? The idea that the American president is asking a foreign leader to meddle in a foreign election. Feels like we just went through that with the Mueller report. The president didn't seem to kick off impeachment hearings after the Mueller report was released. And here, with this call that was revealed through this whistleblower, clearly is under his skin. He's clearly worried about it. I think they're probably second-guessing the fact that they actually released this transcript, which does pretty perfectly capture the substance of it, right? It's not a word-for-word transcript, but it's certainly a memo that captures the spirit of what
and of course,
doing.
The great irony is, you know, everyone involved, obviously it's incredible, it's accurate,
Sure.
but he says every, you know, it's a word-for-word exact thing, which it isn't. You would think he would be trying to seize on that, David. I mean, look, there are photos today of the president during his first meeting with the leader of Finland, which was talking to reporters. And look, I understand these are moments, okay? You can capture anyone in a moment, but we just saw him speaking. We saw his tone. You know, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Well, it is, and I think it's actually not worth a whole lot parsing the outrageous things he says, the crude and the unpresidential things he said. The president has been doing this now for a couple of years, and people will make a decision about that. If there's a political price to pay, he may yet pay it. But this is who he is as the president of the United States. I think two things today. One, I think he's increasingly erratic because he's increasingly isolated. You know, we know from Bob Woodward's reporting in the book Fear that when the Mueller report, not the report, when Mueller became the special prosecutor, he had this outraged response that he couldn't believe this was happening to him and thought it was the end of his presidency. And to see it rearing its head again, I think is something that has so completely thrown him. It explains how isolated he feels at this juncture. The other piece of it is he knows how to do one thing, which is fight and identify enemies. He is going to be the tip of the spear on the response. He wants to take out everyone to delegitimize this, and it is the risk that Democrats are taking by doing this essentially in an election year. He's going to seize on that to try to win.
So Glenn, what do you make of his behavior today and how he handled it?
It's disorienting. I watched the clip and was kind of amazed. You know, back during the Clinton impeachment, President Clinton was plenty angry about being impeached. He thought that impeachment was improper and illegitimate, and candidly, I did and do as well. But with all that anger, he never questioned the basic legitimacy of government. He never threatened to have people imprisoned or charged with treason. He never talked about civil war. And he was hot. He was angry, as we all were. This is a completely new moment in history, and it's scary to see. I
mean, and certainly, obviously, you're referring to when he talked about, you know, civil war, if he were impeached over the weekend in a tweet.